So we were fortunate enough to get Conner Coffin on a call with Clay, and they had a really good conversation. Now, this episode is a really good one. It's full of valuable insights, and also Clay asked some quite peculiar questions, to be honest, which are going to be quite insightful, shall we say. Now, I will just say before we jump into the episode that we do just need to apologise for the audio quality. We have done the best that we can to rectify. There was a bit of an echo in the room, but look, it's jam-packed, full of gold. You're going to love it.
First of all, welcome and thanks for joining us on kind of this little podcast thing. Basically, who we represent, it's OMBI, and it stands for Ocean, Mind, Body and Equipment. The reason being, when you go surfing, it's not just about you kind of shredding a wave. There's a lot more that goes into surfing. It's kind of being able to read waves and pick the right line. It's getting your head into the right mindset. It's moving your body a certain way that you can start to feel things on the wave. And then trying to use your equipment to your benefit, where it's just an afterthought and a part of your body. And then what we do with OMBI is we try to explain it to people. And then whenever someone has a golden moment where they learn something in surfing, we just encourage the community to kind of share those golden nuggets so that surfing doesn't get lost, but it's kind of like we're categorizing and archiving all these golden moments. So that's pretty much what OMBI is. So,
yeah. I like it.
So you've just dropped a new movie of yours called Mind Surfer.
Sorry, my dog is begging to come up here.
No, bring him up. Bring him up. Dogs are allowed. That's cool. So look.
He starts going nuts. I'm not giving him attention.
No, that's fine. So look, I did send you 10 questions, which was emailed through. However, to get to know you better, I jumped on 2 of your old podcasts and I was like, guys already answered those 10 questions. So I figured out, okay, let's just scrumple that up, throw it out the window, and let's
do it. I like to freestyle it better anyway.
Let's freestyle, and there's a couple of weird questions in here, but I just kind of want to get to know you better because I'm sure the audience doesn't know you that well. And on a more personal basis, I think you'll get a lot more overwhelming support when you go and see that movie of yours and so on. So I'm originally from South Africa myself. I'm a surfboard shaper, do lots of coaching. I coached Geordie Smith when he was a junior, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of background there.
Yeah.
So, first question, J-Bay, how good is the wave?
Amazing. Definitely.
I heard that.
One of my favorite waves in the whole world, hands down. It's actually, I think some people have a little bit of a challenging time riding it just because it's so fast. But once you get the pace of it, it's such an incredible wave. And I think it's unique because it has that power of, like a real, almost like more of like a Hawaii style wave or something, like a real wave, but then the perfection of a point. So it's kind of my 2 favorite styles of surfing mixed into one wave.
Super intimidating when you're paddling into it and it's just lined up like all the way down the reef and it's just like, holy shit, do I race it? Do I stall for the barrel? Do I hit the lip? Do I do the cutback? It's just like, you have so many thoughts that you almost forget how to surf it. It's nuts.
Yeah, it is amazing. I remember the first time I ever saw it good, my mind was pretty blown. But yeah, it is like that wall is just stretching so far down the line. And once you kind of get used to it, you realize you can sit back in the pocket a lot more than you think you can when you first start surfing it.
So when you kind of relax into it, like it opens itself up to your surfing.
Yeah, definitely.
So with you having surfed Rincon, did you feel it was an easy transition into J-Bay? It's almost like a bit of familiarity there.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely J-Bay is more down the line and more powerful than Rincon, but just growing up having that point break mentality and that, being used to connecting your turns and going from one maneuver to the next. And sometimes, I've had to sort of unwind that a little bit at times to not make sure that I cut turns short, like on tour and competing, because it's a bit of a bad habit sometimes that you're, halfway through one turn already planning for the next turn. But on a wave like J-Bay, it's definitely something that comes into handy.
When you got to paddle out in front of Sharon's house right on the top of the point, especially at low tide when there's a bit of a swell, like you do the jump and then you paddling, and then there's a second little shelf just ahead where
Yeah,
you almost get dry docked. And then you
totally.
got to, have you been dry docked before?
Uh, I mean, I've never like dry docked my board, but I've definitely had to stand back up and jump again.
Okay,
But
so,
usually, I typically now, if the waves are good, the last few years I went to J Bay, I'd just go paddle out at the boneyard
okay.
up
So
off the
well,
top, off the
the
deck.
reason why I wanted to ask you that is because you've got one of the best styles on tour. So it's a big
Oh,
compliment
thanks.
there. And I know that it
Thank you.
was
No, it's a huge compliment.
I know that was based off like sort of Tom Curran surfing, and you took a lot of caps out of his feather and so on. But it's kind of like if you've just got dry docked on those rocks and you got TV watching and the crews watching and it's getting spread all over the world, how do you then, from feeling really embarrassed and like, oh shit, I've just screwed up and I'm dry docked on the rocks and I can't push under, I've got to stand up and paddle out. How do you then just switch on from I'm feeling like an idiot to suddenly start surfing like Tom Curran and get on a wave? How do you switch those mindsets, or do you not really just care about it?
I mean, I don't really care too much about it. I think I got to the point. It's gotten to the point where I've surfed so many heats and surfed in front of people so many times that kind of just do the mental training ahead of time to just sort of dissolve out all that, and then just going through it.
So, do you
Had
mind me
so many
just
different things happen to me.
do you mind me
So that you
jumping
just
in?
kind
Yeah,
of get used to that.
when you said dissolve all that, I'm super interested. You got to understand that like a lot of the people that are following us and who'll be watching your movie and so on have so many anxiety issues about like stuffing up in front of a crowd, or not doing something for fear of looking silly or stupid, or not going and surfing in the pack because they didn't want to get in the way, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really interested when you said you're able to dissolve what people thought of you and just go out there and do your thing. That's so powerful. Could you give us more insight into that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no, it's super true, and I guess always from a pretty young age, I wasn't really too concerned what people thought of me. I think I kind of got heckled as a kid a little bit for being kind of like chunky and having a bowl cut and whatever, and I don't know. I just kind of got used to it, and I was so determined to surf and do the things that I love, and whether I was surfing well or I was surfing bad or it didn't really matter just because I loved it so much, and that was what I was focused on, and so I wasn't too concerned about what other people thought about it. I was just so determined to keep getting better, and I had so much fun doing it that I was like, well, whatever.
So
I'm
you're
not
just like
really.
in your own little bubble, just trying to just better yourself and surf that feeling.
Yeah, totally. Just that feeling of riding a wave. And I think fortunately I was able to, I think that was a pretty cool lesson to learn through surfing, and kind of my adventure with surfing was that when I was a kid, like I wasn't, that good. And I was kind of, whatever, trying to find my way through surfing, and just kind of kept putting my head down and focusing on, me and what my goals were and what I loved about surfing and getting better and all the positive things. There's always negatives, and
Uh,
I've
I'm
kind of been able to, I think, take that into life outside of that as well.
I am interested because you said that you weren't really that good. Looking at some of your younger footage on your movie Mind Surfer, you could see glimpses of Connor now from young Connor, and
Thanks.
it didn't look too bad. Like, so I'm interested. Was it a case of you feeling like you just didn't belong, like imposter syndrome, that you just had to maybe get a result to feel confident, to feel like you belong?
No, like I would say that it was imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I felt like I belonged, like I felt like I was a surfer and I felt like that was what I was supposed to be doing. But I was never really a super confident person just because I think I had this like just in my head that I always needed to be better. And so and a certain work ethic, that felt like I always needed to keep pushing because I was never good enough to be, you know, I was never totally the guy on top or winning everything or anything like that. So I was just like, oh, I just have to keep working, keep being better. And I was never really like an overly confident person for whatever reason, even when it came to talking to girls from a young age or, you know, whatever. And I think I kind of found my confidence through surfing in a way, because it was something that I ended up being good at, but I knew,
Yeah.
like, when I went out and surfed, I didn't have to talk to anyone. I could surf. And one of my friends, JP, always told me as a kid, just let your surfing do the talking. And that was something that I felt like I could
Actions are louder than
resonate with,
words.
because surfing was something I could do and no one could tell me how to do it. And so as I got better, it was kind of like a confidence builder for me as a surfer, and also in a weird way, me as a person.
So just on a podcast that I heard from Geordie Smith, and I'm wondering if you fell into the same category. He said that he grew up in Durban surfing right-hand points and right-hand beach breaks. Like, we only ever went left on a cutback. But I'm thinking it's probably the same thing with you. Santa Barbara, right-hand point breaks, Rincon, all those type of places. However, like you at Cloudbreak, it's just like, wow. I think you even worked there for a bit, doing some, what was it?
Yeah,
tour
like
guiding,
lifeguarding.
lifeguarding and so on.
Yeah.
So you've got so comfortable, and that's a heavy wave. But then there's places like Pipeline and Chopu where like you just look like it's a match. Was that something that you developed, or was it just like something that you clicked into?
It was something I clicked into. From a young age, I mean, I definitely grown up here. It was mostly right hand point breaks, but I always, from a young age, liked bigger waves. And then couple that with the fact that my parents were so rad, and we had the opportunity to travel, a bit as a family from a young age. And so getting to go experience some of those places. My dad liked to surf, and so we got to go, I got to go to Tabarua when I was 10 and surf Cloudbreak and get to experience that. I mean, that was an insane opportunity and something that they gave me that I could never ask for again. It was like such a big stepping stone. And then just those little things, fed to my love for big waves. And I never really tapped into like the Mavs and Jaws stuff, but I love surfing pipe. I love surfing Chopu. I love Cloudbreak's one of my favorite waves in the world, hands down. So yeah, I kind of was able to do, get a little bit of experience through our, one or two family trips. And then, I got sponsored by Hurley at 11, probably 10 or 11, 10, I guess. And then they took me over to the North Shore when I was 12, I think it was, and maybe 11 or 12. And I got to paddle out at pipe with the Mayan Goodwin, and, get to experience the North Shore for the first time. And I instantly was all about it. I was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of surfing I'm into and the waves I want to be surfing in and pushing myself. And I think from that age, looking up to guys like Andy and Bruce, and, even Tom was an insane surfer on the North Shore.
Yeah.
That was the place that you had to prove yourself as a young surfer. So yeah, I was pretty hungry for it from a pretty young age.
Oh, stoked. Okay, so just keeping with the whole South African theme. Have you ever had a bunny chow? Well, first of all, do you know what a bunny chow is? Okay, so you've had a bunny chow. So basically,
a couple months ago in Durban when I was there for the Lido contest.
Fantastic. So for the audience that doesn't know, it's pretty much a half a loaf of bread with a really kick-ass curry stuck inside. So those curries can sometimes be really hot. So the question is, did it burn once or twice?
The last one burnt once. It wasn't too spicy.
Okay, because some of those burn.
I had a super spicy one. I like spicy food though, but yeah, I love bunny chows. Are so good. I just love. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about traveling and getting to go to all the rad places we've been to, is experiencing all the different local foods. In South Africa for sure has some epic food.
It's insane, isn't it? So, have you ever been surfing out in your full suit and you really needed to take a dump, like a number two? What do you do? What did you do? You must have a funny story from when you've been somewhere around the world where, like, you're traveling and you just got to go. And what'd you do?
I mean, when I was a kid, I think I shit in 2 different wetsuits for sure. One of them was actually, I was so young. I think I was 7 or 8, and I was out at Rincon, and I didn't back then. Like, I wouldn't go in porta potties, or like I had to poop at my house. At our house.
So you're holding it in.
Kid like that, And so we left, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, my stomach hurts. And we were going out at Rincon. It was actually big. It was like, I don't know, it was what probably now wasn't that big, but it was overhead, triple over my head. Kind of big for me. And I still rode like this fine line fun shape thing. And my dad was like, well, go use the porta potty. I was I don't want to go in the porta potty. And I like walked over and I was like, went in there and it smelled so bad. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
whatever, I'll just hold it. And we went out and the waves were big and I was pretty scared and I couldn't catch a wave and I couldn't find him. And I was like, oh, I couldn't get in. So I fully shat my wetsuit. So that was one time. I mean, I've definitely probably done a couple like stripped down aqua dookies too, but yeah.
Yeah.
I usually try to plan my morning coffee, give myself a little leeway there.
Fair enough. Thanks for the story. I wouldn't know if you'd share it with us or not, but it was a good one. Thank you. Okay, so
I think we've all had it. If you've surfed long enough, especially from a young age, we've all had one or two, or maybe 10. I don't know, depending on who you are.
Right. Have you ever shaped your own board? And
Yeah,
how did it go?
I've shaped a couple boards. I shaped
What do you gravitate towards?
What?
Is it going to be a performance board you did, a fish, a groveler? What did you gravitate towards when you made your own board?
The first one I ever shaped was a single fin, and I took it into Channel Islands for them to glass it, and they joked that they couldn't tell which end to put the fin on because both ends looked
double ender. Yeah,
it was like you could tell the tail was a little more pulled in, but it was pretty like needly little single fin. I loved single fins growing up. I longboarded a lot, and then I rode an egg a lot, a single fin egg. I have a funny story. Like Sean Thompson actually saw me down at Rincon one day, and I had this foul green egg that this guy had shaped me as a single fin. It was like thick and wide and disgusting, but I liked riding it. And my dad took me down to Rincon, and we were surfing in the cove, and then we got out, and Sean was like, "Hey, Rich," like I think he kind of knew my dad, and whatever, he kind of knew that I was surfing, and he goes, "Hey, Rich," with his accent. I'm not going to do it because I'll botch it, but he was like, "You've got to go talk to Al. They're making these boards now with these pointy noses. You got to get Conner on a pointed nose board." And my dad was like, "Yeah, no, like he's got a thruster short board, but
he slacks that one,
like a pointy nose." Yeah, right, Sean. But it was pretty classic.
He's a legend, Sean. He's got a great heart.
Yeah,
nice guy.
No, he lived here for a while, so yeah. But so I shaped a single fin that had like two front ends. It's pretty pointy, and then it actually went all right though. Like I rode it a bit, and then my dad and I copied because my dad's a contractor, so he's really good with his hands and he's good at building things. Never in shape, but we copied this 6'6" owl shaped Tanner Gadauskas step up that I had that I broke, and we like literally measured like every inch just with the caliper, like rocker and everything, and we copied it. And I actually rode it when I was like 12 on the North Shore for a winter at like sunset. I rode it at Pipe and stuff, and it went pretty good. It actually
does
went
it not
really good.
Feel that when you shape a board that you feel like you understand and you know how it works, and there's this little bond that you get from it? Like I can't explain it, but you almost know how it works, and it's a good feeling.
And I think that you're just determined to make it work. We're spoiled.
That
now
too.
I start getting freaking more boards as you get older. And you're looking for a certain feeling. You're like, not this one. I want it to do a little. You get picky, and then when you shape it, you're like, fuck it, this thing's gonna work, and you kind of just figure out how to make it work. And I definitely think there's something to be said for that, and surfboards in general. It's like sometimes you're looking for a certain feeling, but if you are open to like, okay, well, what's this board kind of geared towards, or what's it do different that I might be able to use? I think that's kind of a nice way to look at new boards.
Yeah, no, exactly. So
it's weird when you surf contests, though. You kind of are like looking for something that doesn't feel like it's doing anything weird. But when I free surf, like I'll ride anything. I'll ride a bad short board. I'll ride a board that goes too fast and doesn't turn. I'll ride some. Like I don't. You're so much less picky because you can farm 3 waves and then it might do something amazing once, and it's cool.
Yeah. I think you're looking for something also out of the norm because you're so used to just trying to punch scores that anything that feels a bit different, it's like, whoa, let me follow this pathway because it's intriguing.
Totally.
But you don't want that in the heat. Like you want to be able to.
You don't want that in the heat.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to think about what your board's going to do. You just want to go where you want to go on the wave.
I know that growing up in Santa Barbara, Channel Islands was based out there, and you initially started riding for Al Merrick. He used to coach a lot of people. Did he ever coach you?
Al never coached me. No, I got in there I started riding his boards when I was 11, and I was just getting. I think I bought my first couple boards. My buddy Brian Resco, I'm still really good friends with, was there way back then, and kind of brought Parker and I on, and then yeah, I got a couple boards, and then I remember like they kind of like, okay, cool. We started getting a little bit better, and then I remember when I probably ordered my like fifth board. I was probably 13 or 14, and I wrote on the order card like round tail, not too round. And Al walked in and he saw it and was like, what do you mean round tail, not too round? And he was like, come here. And he grabbed my blank and took me into the room and just threw it down and just started going to town. And I was like, whoa, he's shaping me a board, because it was such a big deal to get Al to shape you a board. So I got to work with him for like 2 years, and maybe even a little less before he sold Challenge. He'd already sold it actually, but he was still shaping.
Yeah.
And it was epic. I mean, he had that innate ability as a shaper to take whatever you were feeling and trying to, recreate in your head of how your board was interacting with the wave, what you were feeling, and then knowing how to translate that into the shape and the design of the board. So it's really cool. I'm not going, I've had other experiences too, but, it's like, oh, this thing feels a little, like I'm not getting enough glide over the flats or whatever, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to widen it at 14 inches up or 12 inches up. I'm going to go to a 14.75 inch tail block, blah, blah, whatever,
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I mean, I had a couple of times where it was like, he'd make me a board and then give him a little feedback. And it was like, boom, the next one was just insane. I'd just knock it out of the park. And
Yeah.
yeah, definitely still, I think to this day, one of my most magic boards is one that he made me.
Insane. Okay, so we all know that you love Tom Curran surfing. Pretty much I do. He's one of those guys who's just synonymous with good style, but also flow. Like he never looks ugly at any part of the wave. So he was a big influence over your surfing. And obviously with you guys both being part of the Rip Curl team, I'm sure you must have gone on either trips with him or done a fair bit of surfing with him. Question is, did Tom ever give you any gold? Like Connor, do this. And would you share anything with us? Or was it just...
Oh, no, I'd for sure share. I'm trying to think. I mean, Tom is such an eccentric dude, and he's kind of a man of few words, but once you get him going on stuff, like I've talked to Tom for hours, I don't know, a lot of just sort of trippy, cool theories, like looking at something how I would never have looked at it or how I've never heard anyone else look at something, And I guess an example would be, but I feel like he's also always thinking outside the box and looking at it so differently that it's like, how do you apply that to surfing in a heat or something, or surfing on a board with 3 fins? When I started to get to spend more time with Tom, he was already so kind of done with riding a thruster 3-fin board, and
I was just about to chime in and say, it looks like he's gone, like, how can I play with surfing more? And how can I extract more fun out of this thing that I'm in love with?
Well, I honestly don't even think it's that. I think he was like so good, and he rode a board with 3 fins for so long and did it so damn well that he was like, this isn't, it wasn't challenging anymore. It was like he needed a new challenge. Almost in talking to him and getting to know him, like, I think he just needs a challenge. He's like, 3 fins. Yeah, I've done that. Like, I'm a master. He would never say that, but in my mind, I'm like, yeah, he's a freaking master. At riding a board with 3 fins on the face of a wave. How can you do it much better? And so he's like looking for a new feeling and a new challenge. So he's like cutting fins off boards and riding skim boards and all this stuff. So I've had some cool conversations with him about that. And one that came to mind was this, and Derek Hind, actually, I had the same conversation with him. He told me the same story in J-Bay. We were out or hanging with him, and he's got some trippy theories too. Derek's pretty cool. I got to know him a little bit, which was fun. And they were both at a NASCAR race, and they were trying to figure out how to make boards go faster or whatever at the time. Like, how do we go faster? And because Derek rides the finless things too, and
he's amazing.
Yeah, they called each other, I guess, after this thing, and they said, did you see the car? Some car was going around a corner, and it slid out and lost friction, like lost connection with the road.
Yep.
And when it slid out, it sped up because it didn't have any friction. Like it wasn't, the tires weren't really gripping. And when it first started to slide, it sped up. And they both had this realization when they saw that, oh, we could go faster with no fins. And then they were like, hit it off on that. They,
Yeah, no, definitely.
doing it up and saying, but just stuff like that, where they're, he's looking at something so differently. And I think that's kind of cool, if you can come up with a new approach.
For sure. Okay, so I wanted to ask you a question here. Your brother Coffin, he rips. Like I've got so much respect for him because I study some of the turns that he does and stuff, and he's got this carefree attitude that makes his surfing look energetic and flowing.
Totally.
Whereas sometimes in a contest you have to make a score, so it's kind of like you got to manufacture a score on a wave, and sometimes it makes surfing look a bit forced. So
For sure.
it's almost like you've ended up being this contest surfer, and then Connor's being a bit of a free surfer. However, it seems like at some parts in your guys' career or life, it's like Parker wouldn't mind jumping onto the CT, and you wouldn't mind going for that free surf. It's like, is the grass greener on the other side for both brothers? Like, what's going on there?
I definitely wouldn't say is the grass greener, but we both, we both love surfing. Like at the end of the day, Parker and I are super passionate about surfing, whether it's in a jersey or as a free surfer. I think at the end of the day, I started surfing. I got more into surfing before Parker, and then he got good fast and started competing, and he got me to compete. And then it was like we kind of pushed each other through that, and I found it interesting and challenging that I wasn't good at it and wanted to get better. And then Parker was a freaking contest machine when we were kids. I mean, that kid won a lot of freaking contests and surfed really well. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's funny, kind of, we sort of have flip flopped throughout our careers as far as, competing and stuff goes. And, I think at the end of the day, it just, we have gone down sort of different paths, and I'm sure, like, I know that he would love to have had a crack at the CT, and just found, the QS was a little, it was challenging for him, and he got this other opportunity that just he connected more with, at that time in his life. And I kind of, got the opportunity to kind of put my head down and be on the CT thing happened for me. I got through the QS and then found a place there and loved it. And, so I think both of us have just kind of been, since kids, it's like, well, how do we figure out how to make a living surfing as much as we possibly can? And we've kind of done it in two different ways until this point. And we're not really sure where it'll go from here. And I think kind of change and adapt and go with the flow and take the opportunities and try to make the opportunities,
Yeah. Hey, can I ask a question? I mean, I'm asking a couple of questions, a stupid thing to say. However, in a stressful situation, in a heat, cameras rolling, you got to get scores, got to get to get through heats, there's this mounting pressure, there's expectations, sponsors want you to do well. How do you put that aside, considering that, like, the waves might not even be waves that you want to surf, but then how do you just focus your energy on just you and the wave and keeping it in the moment and not jumping, oh, if I lose this heat in the future, shit's going wrong, or this has happened in the past. It's almost like you got to be this yogi Zen master and just go, listen, it's me on the wave, and I got to ride this little bit of energy and get some enjoyment out of it. And if I get this enjoyment out of it, I will get the result. But to get the mindset to be present, I think that's what makes a world-class top 5 surfer like you. And the question is it something that you just built maybe natural toughness with being, you said, a chubby kid that people just picked on you and you just went into that bubble? Have you had like Mick Fanning where he's had coaches come in and help him work on that? Where's Connor's superpower come from to get you into that top 5?
Yeah, I met a guy named Michael Gervais along the way, and ended up doing a session with him, and he was really cool, epic. He's kind of like the sports psychologist guy, but more holistic, than just, okay, here's what you need to do good in a heat. Because I think he's spot on. He's like, no, you need to approach your whole life a certain way, and you need to work on being in the moment. You need to work on being present. You need to train your mind like you train your body or your craft to help you be present in those challenging moments, and have done the work before to go through all that shit that you're talking about. Like, okay, well, yeah, like, if I don't requalify this year, yeah, my Grip Pro contract might get torn up or whatever, all those things. But to kind of go through all that stuff ahead of time so that when you're out in those heats, you feel like you've done everything you can. You've prepared, you train your mind, you train your body to be in that moment and then like perform, and I think it's finding, trying to find joy in those challenging moments, like getting used to being in those uncomfortable moments that really resonated and clicked with me. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm surfing against Mick Fanning. I need to make this heat to stay on tour. Like, let's go, let's see what I can do. Can I bring it on, And so I think when you find that, like that joy in those challenging and can be very uncomfortable moments, it really just, you kind of flip it around, and you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can do this.
So for me in my own personal life, there's been a lot of frustration where I've been trying to figure stuff out and it's super frustrating. But I read somewhere that it's almost this door that you got to go through. And then when you step through the door, it's not easy going. It's like you kind of got to wade through mud to kind of figure the frustration out. It's slow going, but it gets better and gets better. And suddenly when it clicks, the frustration goes away. And then you get this, I know what to do. And that clarity, it's like your focus goes from being too broad to this like laser sharp intensity focus. And I think I think you're in the Gold Coast and you had just lost, but then Parker said, hey, look, don't give up now. Just keep at it. And then it looked for you like you had gone through the frustration that you needed to go through. And then the results just started dropping. So it looked like you got that laser focus. Is there anything that you could share with like what was the frustration? How did you get that laser focus? Or was it just the fact that you weren't fighting it, you kind of gave up and go with the flow mentality and then the results came? Were you trying too hard? It might sound like a multi-question, but
yeah,
if you can just give us some like feedback on that, that'll be sick.
Yeah, I came really close to qualifying the first year that I kind of was just starting to do the kiosk. I was planning on sort of building my seed the way it worked back then. And I ended up getting second in one of the big ones in Portugal, and I had that ninth, and I went to Hawaii needing to make a couple of heats, and I got so nervous and, hadn't surfed in a Triple Crown season, totally farmed it, whatever. But the next year I was like, okay, cool. I'm on. I almost got it last year, barely trying. And I couldn't make a freaking heat the whole year. I like barely even got myself. I think Hawaii I ended up doing okay and got back into the primes, they called them, that year. So the next year went boom, same thing, like first two. I think I lost the first heat at both the Australia leg. And I was so frustrated. I was just like, God, like, why can't I get any of these heats to click? I'd be losing by barely anything and not surfing my best. When I look back on it now, I definitely think that I was putting a certain amount of pressure and expectation on myself that was weighing me down. I wasn't surfing free. I wasn't, I think I was, I need to qualify. I need to do it. And I was kind of like a little high strung about it, putting a lot of pressure on myself, not necessarily all those other things you're talking about the contracts or all that, but like just for myself, you gotta fucking do this. And, and you're putting so much energy and time into doing that it like kind of, it almost consumed me a little bit. And so, yeah, after those two, I remember I had a little bit of time off, and that was when I took the opportunity to go lifeguard at Tabarua, and I went down there for probably a month and a half, and I surfed my brains out. I had the best time, like with just rad people down there and my friends, and met a lot of cool people, that were guests, and just shared that froth and that love for surfing, is why I was doing all this in the first place, Yeah. It was just kind of weird. Nothing totally changed, but I definitely felt that like love for surfing again after that time down there.
Something that resonated with me right when you started your story is that you said that the first year you weren't even trying and you got your results. but
Yeah.
then you went hard at it and you almost tried too hard and you try to force it. And it's almost when you take a step back and don't try that you get your results. And one thing that's quite apparent is as soon as anyone says, okay, I'm retiring, they're guaranteed to like almost win an event because they've given up. They're like, oh, I've quit. I'm not going to try anymore. And the results seem to come. It's like the year Mick Fanning quit. He almost won the world title again and he wasn't even trying. So
Totally.
it's this whole yin yang thing. You try too hard, you don't get it. You don't try, you get it.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
Totally. And then there's you can't just show up totally unprepared. But no, I mean, I definitely think there's something to it. And, I think as an athlete, you're sort of always trying to find that sweet spot where, okay, if you looked at it as a list of things that you need to feel, because mentally you need to go to the event feeling prepared. You can't. Yeah. I can't show up like, oh, I haven't surfed and freaking don't know which board to ride, blah blah, like all that stuff. But there's definitely a sweet spot in there where you're like, okay, I'm prepared, but I'm not like overdoing it, and I'm enjoying myself. And I think when you can tap into that, it's kind of cliche. Everyone says, "Oh, enjoy the process," but definitely when you're stoked to be getting up and going for your surf, and you're feeling good, you're feeling loose, and enjoying every day. I think you throw the jersey on, you feel good, and that definitely lends itself to success.
Awesome.
And sometimes it just doesn't freaking go your way, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you can't overthink it. It's one of those sports. It's just sometimes you do everything right, and you freaking still you lose your beat.
Kind of that's life. You can do everything right, and it just some things you don't have control over. And if you just work on what you can control, that's the best that you can possibly do. And the stuff that you can't control over, don't harp on it and don't live in the past about it. Life's too short.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Your movie, Mind Surfer. I've watched it 3 times.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Why the black and white contrast? How come not color?
That's just sort of, so 805, I started working with them about a year ago, and I think it's only been a year. God, it feels like it's been longer. But that's kind of their whole thing is black and white, just because they felt like it's different than kind of what a lot of stuff's going on now.
Yeah.
And kind of has that. They're from here on the Central Coast, just north of Santa Barbara, and kind of that, kind of roots Central Coast feel. So they were the ones that approached me about doing a film, and then it kind of all blossomed from there, working with Keith. But yeah, everything that they were doing to this point's been in black and white. So
yeah,
we stayed true to form.
Awesome. The title Mind Surfer, what was that about, and what was it about the title that you like? Why Mind Surfer? Where were you going with it?
Well, actually, Keith, it's mind surfing. Not sorry to correct you.
Sorry, mind surfing.
Very, very similar. But I actually didn't name it. We worked on everything. We hung out. They started editing it, and I was gone. And then he hit me up. He's like, "What do you think about mind surfing?" I was like, "I like it." And then I asked him why. What'd you come up with that? And there's a quote. Shane Dorian said, when you see Conner ride a wave on a right-hand point, that's how I'd mind surf a wave. So yeah, I think they kind of got that and ran with it. And then, I think my brother also talked about how he saw from when I was a kid that I was sort of methodical about, my approach or maybe strategic or kind of whatever he said, is when I'm doing things, I kind of have a master plan maybe or something, And I guess for me, when I think about mind surfing, it's more about like the expression, like surfing being a form of self-expression for me, and something that I always felt like as a kid growing up, it was how I poured my emotion into that and expressed whatever I was going through or feeling through my surfing. So yeah, I guess kind of a multifaceted answer.
Okay. No, that's great. It's just nice to have the person's background as to like when you're watching it, you get it. Whereas sometimes you just see it and there's no thought process like, oh, okay, mind surfing and whatever. Nice to be able to join those. Yeah, exactly. All right, this is something that I didn't even know if I want to talk to you about, but I'll bring it up. You can either say yes or no. But you kind of taking on the yoke or the mantle of being the surfers rep on the WCT. I freaking would not touch that with the 10-foot pole. Like why
Me
the
neither.
F? Why? Did it feel like just something that landed on your lap that you kind of begrudgingly said yes to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely. I mean, and it's always weird, when you look back on something and you say, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that again." I don't really live my life like that, but that one's borderline. I might chuck it in that bucket. But
Yeah.
in saying that though, I mean, I learned a ton, and I definitely, it was an experience, and yeah, it was tough, and just you end up kind of stuck in a no-win situation. I think most of the time, which is always like a weird place to be in something. You're like, wait, I
If
can't win at this, so
if we
why am I
talk
doing
about if we talk about energy, like if you're surfing and normally on a point break or something, there's these guys on the top end getting all the waves and they kind of know what's going on and the energy is really good. But then there's these guys further down who aren't getting any waves and they're griping and they're moaning and the energy is not as good. I feel like on the CT, guys who are going to requalify, they've got this good energy and results are coming easy. The guys are going to miss the chop. They've got the bad energy and basically they just lumping that onto you, and you got to take that as the surfer's representative. And it's kind of like they've just, here's some negative energy and go, like, keep doing what you're doing. But it just feels like a horrible thing that you had to deal with. And I don't know if that kind of sort of brought your energy down or played into maybe sleepless nights where you're not thinking about your game, but everyone's game. And it's a big responsibility that you had to take on. I think it was a pretty gnarly thing to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, there was times when it was fine, like earlier on before all the mid-year cut and stuff started coming up. Like it was actually kind of fun, and there was a lot of it that I enjoyed, and
Yep.
it was a cool experience. And then yeah, when the mid-year cut thing started happening, people were really bummed and didn't want it to happen. And then they were coming to me and wanted me to try to do something, and it's like, well, my hands are tied. It's not my decision, at the end of the day. But I think also just as as someone who's passionate and a fan about surfing, and
Yeah.
I guess when you ask me why did I do it is, because guys like Ace and Mick had kind of come to me and said, hey, like, we've done this and we feel like you'd be a good person to carry the torch on for the surfers. And, it's like the tour is here and exists in the way that it does because of a lot of things that the surfers group has done in the years past. And definitely, one of my goals to do surfing is to help give back and to help,
Yeah.
make sure that the next generation and kids that are 10 years old now have a path to be, in my shoes and, and Griffin's and Seth's shoes, all these kids. So, I felt like it was a way that I could kind of help
Give back.
steward,
Look,
the path of a pro surfer.
The fact that that caliber of person came up to you and said, hey, we almost singled you out as like being the guy to hold the torch and carry it on is amazing. And the fact that you did that for all the surfers just goes to show what kind of character you are. And I suppose when I jumped onto this and I wanted to interview you by asking you all the weird and strange and wonderful questions that I did, is I just wanted to show everyone the character that you were, and that how you put all of that feeling into your surfing, and kind of when you do a rail turn, it goes appreciated because like the lines that you pick, the style that you surf with, it all comes from the person that you've been in your past, and we're just a sum of our past experiences, and all that's coming out in your surfing, and it's beautiful to see. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to have a chat.
Oh yeah, no worries. No, and I mean that's
good.
what, like, at the end of the day, surfing really is. Like every time I do a turn or every time I ride a wave, I mean that's the feeling that I get. It's why I keep doing it. And I think all of us, I'm sure you feel the same. It's like kind of feeling just never gets old. And there's it's really, really rare. It has to be really freaking crowded that I could go out and come in feeling anything but better than before I paddled out surfing, and I think that's why I do it.
I think being a pro surfer, having to surf sometimes and just living it 24/7, it's a big thing to say that you're still in love with surfing. I know a lot of guys who do want to quit, like Bobby Martinez. There's a Ricky Basnett. There's all these names that come to my mind where there's been so much frustration. Even a Dane Reynolds, like couldn't handle the pressures of tour and having to perform at the drop of a hat, because it's almost like art in a sense where when you're feeling artistic, you'll create. But just to be like like poke the bear and make the bear dance to get a score in front of a camera is sometimes a difficult thing to do. So to hear that you're still in love with it, I think you're definitely doing something correct. And I don't think we've seen the last of you. I'm hoping that you jump onto the challenging series and surf some events that you enjoy going to, and slow the turns down, finish the turns, leave your stamp on those things, and get back on tour.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, I know definitely the poke the bear thing you're talking about. I mean, I can relate to that for sure. And, it's sometimes hard to just be able to throw it on and perform. But I mean, I know for me, regardless of whether I'm surfing, that was something I always knew, like whether I was surfing on the tour competitively or whatever, like I'm going to surf for as long as I can in my life, So regardless of what I'm doing for a living, I'll always be a surfer.
Stoked.
Yeah.
Mate, thanks for the chat. Any
No worries.
last words that you want to pass on
Anytime.
to the crew from Ombi? You're going to have a huge fan base after this. Any last words?
No, just thanks for having me, and hopefully we can ride away one of these days.
Conner, thanks a million. Really enjoyed the
Cool.
chat. Good getting to know you. That's it from us. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. See ya.